Good morning, everybody. This is Sam and Adam Henning here at ODE, and we have one person here, Candice Cardiff, here in person here at ODE. Can people out on the webinar hear us?
This is Sandy at High Desert. I can hear you, Sam.
Great. Thank you, Sandy. So thank you for everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules to participate, and to respect everyone's time. As always, we always start on time and hopefully we'll end on time. So without further ado, we're going to start. If my computer will allow me to progress the PowerPoint. So for now, for LTCT, the contact people are myself and Adam Henning. And I'm going to give Adam some time to introduce himself. And some of you have met him. I've been taking him around the state, visiting LTCT sites.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Henning. I've been with ODE for a year now. The last year, I've had more of a focus on the YSEP programs, but now I'm also going to start helping Sam out with the LTCT programs. I've got a lot of background in juvenile justice education and things of that matter, so I look forward to working with all of you.
Also, Adam, he neglected to state he is 50% ODE and 50% OIA. So that's why last year he was learning the job and he was concentrating on YSEP, Youth Corrections Education Program. But now, now that he's got his feet wet, he's going to also assist with long-term care and treatment. Right, Adam?
Right.
Yeah. So 50% of his salary is paid from ODE and 50% from OIA, but nothing from the LTCT budget. It is from the YSEP budget. Okay. And then feel free to ask questions as we go along. Next, our agenda items. Couple of things. One, we introduced Adam already. Our fiscal outlook related to 1819 agreements. Once we have all of the data that we need, such as the number of classrooms, slots, number of kids, teacher salary, EA salary, and so forth, we'll be able to give out the 1819 amounts. And it looks like, unlike the 17-18 where it's at 68%, it looks like we may be able to go a little higher for on every dollar. The amount hasn't been determined yet, and the reason why we might be able to go higher for 18-19 is because we now have a better feeling of our unspent 15-17 funds. Because, you know, when we're calculating the 17-18 amounts, we have no idea, you know, how much it's going to be and so forth. So, and we had one site, we had a couple of sites that didn't spend all their money. So the fiscal outlook for 18-19 is a little better. Now, I'm going to say something that please listen to this very carefully. We're not increasing the number of LTCT sites. We have, right now, we have 39 LTCT sites. What we are thinking about doing is allowing current long-term care and treatment sites, if the demand is there, to add a classroom or two. So there's a really big difference. We're not adding new long-term care and treatment sites. What we're saying is, if a current long-term care and treatment site needs to add another classroom, the possibility might be there, and then it'll be perpetual. And then an example could be a site currently has one classroom for elementary, but a need has arisen and they have commitments from either DHS or OIA or OHA to place kids in the middle school. You know, so then that could be like where an existing long-term care treatment site adds a classroom for a middle school or whatnot. So, and it's not going to be first come, first serve. You know, if a determination has been made that sites can submit, you know, proposals to add classrooms, we'll probably come up with a form and so forth. So, does anyone have questions on that? Because that's a change, and it's a very important designation where we're not adding long-term care and treatment sites, but existing long-term care and treatment sites may add classrooms. Well, if we have funding and so forth. Are any questions on that?
Sam?
Okay, good.
Sam?
Yes.
This is Sandy at High Desert. I have a question. Have we increased sites in the last few years? I thought we had 20 some sites across the state, so I'm surprised when I hear that there's 39.
No, we actually have when I first took over long-term care and treatment, we had 47 sites, but I think we had like 26 or 27 contractors. So since I've taken over the long-term care and treatment sites, we've lost a site in Central Point in Jackson County. We lost Metzger Heights. We lost Chehalem. We lost Youth Villages. And we lost some other sites along the way. Oh, and then we lost another day treatment site. So when I first started, I think 2013, long-term care treatment had 47 sites, but now we're down to 39 sites. Oh, and a large site that we lost was Lithia Springs in Ashland. So we're down to 39 sites. But we have about 27 school districts and ESDs that do LTCT.
Thanks, Sam. I think I was thinking of the contractors.
Yeah. And there was a question online, is there a time frame when proposals could be submitted? That will be determined whether we will take proposals to add classrooms or not. Brian Hinson asked, and that's a good question. So we're still waiting for our fiscal outlook and so forth. So, and then and the reason we're announcing this is because we want to make it equitable and fair to everybody. It's not going to be like only, we gave this because they're the only ones that asked. But others, you know, if they knew of the possibility, you know, they may have asked too and so forth. And then most definitely some of the things that we would look at would be the need and geography. And like what I mean by geography is like if a request is in an area where there's other LTCT sites within proximity versus like, let's say it was Klamath, you know, there's only KBBH there. And the next nearest LTCT north is in Redmond, you know, then there's that area might need another classroom. So that's the thing. Any other questions while I move on? No? Okay, great. Next, OD updates related to LTCT. Here's an email that I received. If the because ODE pays for LTCT and we have an agreement with you, if you're going to change your name, if you're going to change the grade levels, if you're going to change things, please send me a heads up first. And what Lee did is really great. They are changing the grade levels and they submitted an institution request form. But my only ask is for everybody, if you change your name, if you're going to change your grade level and so forth, to give me a heads up first. Because what happens is the ODE institution database people, they're going to email me and asking if it's okay and then so forth. And then if I don't know anything about that change, I can't respond or whatnot. But then in this instance, it's easy. So, and if your site is also going to move addresses, especially if they're going to go from a school district to another school district, and if a site is going to go from another county to another county. Please keep me abreast of that sorts of things. Invoice payments. This biennia was a change that I have to admit I did not, I was not in favor of, but it is what it is. We have to, it is by invoice. We had to go away from the EGMS payment system, which was working for us really well. But we had to go this route. So for the invoice payments, I'm working with certain fiscal people because it's a new system they haven't done, so then it's taking a little longer. But we're pretty much caught up. And what it is the invoice amount that you're requesting has to match up with the payment schedule within the agreement. So for instance, if first payment you're eligible for 25 and second payment you're eligible for 25, if you ask for 54, we can only give you 50,000. But if you're eligible for 25 and 25 and you only request 38, we'll give you the 38 and it's a running total. So, and what's confusing on that schedule is there's 5 payments, and some people rather have 4 payments or reimbursement. And the reason why we have 5 payments is last biennial, some sites express hardship on their side where they had to upfront the first quarter of payroll. So some sites are having difficulty upfronting that first quarter of payroll. So that's why for the 17-19, there's a payment that you're eligible to receive upfront. So that's why there's 5 payments to help offset that payroll cost. But a lot of sites are just going on a 4-payment schedule because they rather just go on a reimbursement basis. But large sites such as St. Mary's that has 9 classrooms, you know, that is a significant amount of payroll. And Springfield too, where they have, I believe, 5 at Child Center, and then Jasper Mountain and SAFE, you know, considerably like 8, you know, it'd be hard for a school district to front, you know, 8 classrooms worth of payroll. So that's why. Are there any questions or updates regarding the invoice payments? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I had frozen the thingy. I had frozen the PowerPoint. Next, we're on other suggestions by long-term care and treatment contractors. A couple of months ago, I sent out a document, and it's titled Continuum of Care Document, and somebody asked if we could have a short discussion about it and get people's feedback. And that was provided by DHS to me, asking for feedback from our school districts because they wanted to get input from school districts. And the email said to respond directly to Angela Leet, who is the author of the document. And I'm going to just briefly go over the document on screen right now. And it was also emailed this morning. Oh, I think I deleted it. Darn. Sorry, I have the other documents. So this is the document that I sent out. Hopefully it's familiar to some of you. So here are some recommendations that they had. And here are some of the things, some talked about barriers and so forth. One was to create one CCO to manage all child and youth in state custody. And it talked about how there's inconsistencies between CCOs from one county to another or one area to another. Medicaid carve-out of intensive behavioral health services. And here, the creation of a children's service division. For some of us that are experienced in our system before, you may remember DHS had a children's services division, and that's where Oregon Youth Authority came out of. So a proposal is creating such a services division, and then because right now we have multiple agencies placing students. Within DHS, there's child welfare, and there's also DD, there's OHA, there's OIA, and there's counties and so forth. So if there was perhaps one division, or agency that kept track of, all the placements, all the beds, and so forth, they're thinking it might be more efficient. And here are suggestions for new facilities. And I'm going to talk about the second one because the second one is one I'm a part of and I help talk about because of my work with LTCT, JDIP, and YSEP. Every so often, cases come up. Well, there's a group that meets monthly to talk about really difficult kids to place, and we have a meeting this afternoon at 1 p.m. and there's people from DHS, OHA, OIA, and myself and so forth, and we try to figure out where to place, let's say, this kid Isaac, and there's many times where Isaac has been declined from a lot of placements. They don't fit site A or site B, and they just don't have. And then so a proposal is to create a residential site that has to, kind of like last stop, they can't say no, and so forth. So this is their proposal, and it's going to be very expensive, as you could see. And the thing is, funding blind. And then what that meant was, that was there because, unfortunately, the funding stream for a child kind of dictates what types of services are they're eligible for or not eligible for, and who's going to place. So that's why, if this facility is developed, the first priority is going to be to accept the kid and then figure out where the funding is going to come later on. So, so that is that proposal. And if you notice, it doesn't say anything about long-term care, whether it's going to be paid educationally from LTCT, YSIP, or JDAP. But in our discussions, because these kids will be the high, 0.01% types of kids, I can't imagine a school district being able to fund it on their own. They would need financial support from OD, just like how our current residential day treatment sites have financial support from ODE. So just like we fund JDIP and YSEP, if a facility such as this is developed, I don't want a school district where the facility resides to be negatively financially impacted serving these types of kids. So that has yet to be determined. And here's some next steps. Now it's open mic for anybody. For those of you that had a chance to review it the other month or other week, do some of you have any thoughts on this document? How many of you guys submitted any feedback to Angela Lee? I know people read it because I received emails, and I did have a conversation. And then what was funny was and which is totally fine. You know, when I send mass emails out, if you want to forward it to your SPED directors in your region or whatever, that's fine. Because like when I forward this out, a SPED director that is not an LTCT or JAPE or YZIP contractor got a hold of it and gave me a call, and I explained the document to him. So that is fine, so I know some people have seen this document, beyond JDEP, YSIP, and long-term care treatment. So I'm just wondering, any feedback on this document?
Sam, this is Sandy at High Desert. I did share it with some SPED directors, and we were curious about it. I appreciate that somebody's looking into barriers and some potential solutions. What I don't have enough information about is what would be different if there was one CCO for the state. Is that really a better direction to go or not? I'm curious if other people have knowledge of other states that do that and what the services look like. Has it reduced some barriers? Has it created consistency? So I wonder if anybody has experience with that type of system.
Others on the call? Do people want to chime in? Because I definitely have my opinions on, because I get to go around the state and listen to LTCT sites and so forth. And one of the things that has become evident is, I wouldn't say reluctance, but I guess the difficulty in getting kids placed into day treatment or residential from the CCOs getting the approval, and it seems that and then it was like I don't know if I was at a meeting or whatnot, but a representative from a CCO said that they didn't believe in day treatment or residential. I was like, whoa, and then if that's their philosophy, no wonder why, they were reluctant in placing kids in day treatment or residential treatment facilities. So, but I in my opinion, as I travel around the state and talk to people, certain sites have an easier time with CCOs getting kids placed into their facilities. Some sites, it's a little more difficult. So, and then I think if we did have one CCO that was statewide, perhaps it would eliminate the or reduce the inconsistencies of getting. And then, like for instance, like I was at another meeting and one person said, I'll just move to this county because I heard in this county this CCO is a little bit more lenient, and it's like, what? That kind of stuff. Any others that have thoughts on having, like, if there's just one CCO, statewide CCO? Oh, someone posted something online. Okay, good. Someone said it is an issue in her area, and then if and there is a significant increase in their area for health and behavior needs, and if a work group or feedback wherever desired from school district should gladly participate and make herself available. and then others too, like if there's others out there that if DHS or OHA or OIA were to convene a work group or like a focus group talking about this, if you want to participate or let me know, and then I can add you, I keep you in mind if that opportunity ever comes up. Anyone else? So all of you have this document. I sent it out this morning again. So with the PowerPoint and draft documents. So feel free to give me a call. I know some people are, you know, hesitant to speak on a statewide phone call. So feel free to call me up to discuss, or if you have any questions regarding this document. Okay, next. Okay, so are there any questions on the Survey Gizmo survey for the to calculate your amounts for next year? I got a few and I responded via email. I'm just wondering how everyone is doing on that. And that's the survey on the number of classrooms, the slot count, and your anticipated teacher and EA salary for not this year, but for 18-19. And for school districts that have subcontracts, we're asking for the school district salary scale, not the sub-grantee salary scale. Any questions or feedback on that Survey Gizmo survey?
Hey, Sam, this is Mark from Portland. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mark.
Yeah, I missed like the first 2 minutes of the presentation. So are we anticipating, do you know what the prorate's going to be this year?
Okay, Mark, okay, so we talked about that earlier. What we said was, one, it looks like it'll be more, for 17-18, it's at 68%, but for 18-19, it hasn't been determined yet because not everyone has submitted their data, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be better off this coming year because of the unspent 15-17 amount that some people didn't. Because when we calculated the 17-18 amounts last February or March, we didn't know how much people were going to leave over. But now that we do know, we can calculate, we'll figure out something. And Mark, what we talked about earlier was, and this is a clear distinction, we are not adding long-term care and treatment sites. Right now, there are 39 sites where you have 10. And then when I first started, we had 47 sites, but now we're at 39, where you lost one of your sites, which was hand in hand, you know, hand in hand close from you guys. So we, but there is a possibility, and the timeline hasn't been determined yet, of whether current existing long-term care and treatment sites, if they want to add a classroom, if they have commitments from DHS, OHA, or OIA, or somebody, or school districts where the demand will be there for an additional classroom for whatever reason, we may open that up to current LTCT sites to submit proposals for 18-19. Oh, okay. Are there any other questions before we move on? I guess the Survey Gizmo for the MSL is self-explanatory, and this is the second year or third year we've done it, so I think people are getting into the routine of it.
Yes, Sam, one more question. The
Sure.
continuum of care proposal. If we still want to provide feedback to the author, can we still do that, or is that window closed?
No, she hasn't stated the window has closed. You can still submit feedback to Angela. Yep. You could still provide feedback to her. Any other questions before we move on? Remember, this meeting is for you guys. It's like, that's why I'm asking for questions or comments. I don't want to rush through things. No? Okay. Next, our Title 1D monitoring tool. I'm going to let Adam take the lead or drive the mouse. Okay. That's the new one.
You sent this out to everybody this morning, right?
Yep. And this is the...
Yep. Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. What Sam sent out to you this morning was, it's a draft tool for coming out and doing reviewing of the LTCT programs. Sam and I are going to be hopefully starting around April or May to come out and start doing program reviews. We will put together tentative schedules, give everybody heads up and input as to when we're coming out and things like that. This tool, Sam showed me prior to my time being here, a tool that they used to use. The new tool has got a lot of overlap with the old tool, so there's a lot of similarities that you can see there. The new tool meets the requirements of the subpart, what are they, subpart 1 for Title 1D. And it also has IDA in it and things like that. So there is some new stuff, but this is nothing for anyone to be worried about or anything like that. It's monitoring that needs to be done to make sure that we're in compliance with the federal requirements and things like that. And it's always, of course, to make sure that we are doing best practices and improving programs and seeing how we can best help kids. We want everyone to take a look at the document, review it. If you have any input, feedback, anything like that, get it back to Sam and I by March 1st. That gives us time to make adaptations and things like that we've missed. The new tool has been created and adapted from the tool that was used for YSEP. So some of the terminology has been adapted from the YSEP one. If you saw the original YSEP one, which leans heavy on juvenile justice language. So yeah, we want to just make sure everyone has time to take a look at it, give input, give feedback, and then we will start using this tool later on this year to come out and start doing the required monitoring. So, any questions? Okay, back to you, Sam.
So let me expand on the Title 1D. Well, the monitoring tool. The monitoring tool will replace the Title 1D monitoring tool that we've utilized in the past. And it is a federal requirement where we, as a grantee, monitor our sites once at least 3 years on site. Now, the questions would be that I see out there. Sam, I have 3 institution numbers. Do you have to come visit? Can we just meet at the district office? The answer is no. I have to go to every site, physically, and then, or Adam, so, and then you will have to do you have to fill out 1 form per institution number. And this is the document. It was emailed out this morning. If you have any thoughts, and then a lot of the things you have been doing or should be doing is just a checklist to show whether you're doing it or not, and so forth. And well, if you notice with the new document here, we're not, here's accessible evidence, but we're not going to collect it. We're just going to, but then you need to keep your evidence at your site readily available. So I'm not going to bring back a binder. I'm not going to ask you to, but then when we do come, we're going to take a look at it and say whether it's compliant or not.
Let me jump in here real quick, Sam. One feedback I want to give to everyone, because I've used this tool with all the YSEP programs already. The reviews went much easier, quicker, and that sort. If you took the time ahead of time and develop a binder or whatever with examples of evidence and things like that, to show us when we come out. As Sam said, we're not going to be actually collecting it and bringing it back to ODE or anything like that, but taking some time ahead of time to prepare for this makes things a lot simpler.
Yep. And when we come out for the monitoring, it's not a gotcha. It's not to, conk you over the head with a hammer. It's just to see, just to be aware, are you meeting the requirements? If you're not, are you aware of this, and so forth. So, and then this is a tool that you can use for continuous improvement also. As Adam said, if we could have your feedback by March 1st, that'd be greatly appreciated. And then a schedule will come out probably in March, and then hopefully will come out starting in April. Any questions on this, on the monitoring tool? And you guys all have this. It was emailed out this morning. Any feedback, any thoughts? No feedback, no thoughts? Okay. Next, we'd like to talk about transition specialists and services. I need to remind everybody, 15 to 30% of your Title 1D funds needs to be used for, I guess, transition or reentry. That's something that has to be done. I've noticed other states, they're getting dinged by that. So we don't want a finding. And every LTCT site, it doesn't have to be 1.0 FTE or what, but every LTCT site should have a person that's designated as a transition specialist, to help the kids transition to the next placement. Whether, some of the things you could be doing is calling them up, having pre-meetings, having to talk about the kid and so forth, exchange of records, transcripts, and so forth. This needs to happen, and it should be, every site should have a transition specialist. And I sent out a couple of weeks ago ND Tax Transition Specialist Handbook, services and things that can be utilized. It's a really good handbook. If people want, I can resend it out. So that's something I really wanted to emphasize to everybody. The reentry to the regular K-12 school is very important, and so forth. And if you want, for instance, let's say Isaac is going back to the neighborhood elementary school for like 2 hours a day or whatnot, it is acceptable for a long-term care treatment EA or LTCT person to accompany, the student Isaac for a short period of time, for a period of adjustment, because we want to ensure success. We don't want Isaac to just go cold turkey. It's up to you and your program on how best to service the needs of Isaac, So it is acceptable for an LTCT site to send someone that is familiar with Isaac to their next placement. On the caveat that, Isaac remains on, the LTCT roster, ADM roster, while they're still receiving LTCT services. Any questions on that? Any thoughts, feedback? Okay. Someone asked to send the transition book. I'll send the transition book along with the YouTube webinar. YouTube webinar link.
Hey, Sam, this is Mark in Portland again.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, for the transition piece, there are times, it's not super frequent, but there are times when students discharge, very suddenly, and then, it might be a couple of weeks before we even know, where they landed after leaving, one of our programs. And so how do you want us to handle a situation like that where, I mean, there's delays and even knowing where kids end up?
Okay, so that is something that happens, unfortunately. And then for instance, like, and I've sat in staffing meetings, where all it depends is like like Isaac is on a waiting list to go to site B, and then as soon as a bed opened up in site B, the site B called the case manager, said, we have a bed opening. If you don't take it by tomorrow, we're gonna offer it to another person. So you have to take it, right away. There are some instances like that, Mark. So, but yeah, I would say work with the case manager to see, when Isaac left your site, where, like, hopefully there is a case manager associated with that student that you can contact to see. So Isaac left our facility today. Where's he going? Where is he going to be placed tomorrow or whatnot, and so forth, and then try to see. And I think the coordination and the partnership and the relationship you have with either the OIA, DHS, or OHA case manager is critical. And the thing is, I guess, just do what you can do.
Sam, this is Allison down at Douglas ESD. When you're talking about the transition services or re-entry services, that's for all grades, right? Any youth that is transitioning out of the program needs to have a coordination with their home district is what you're referring to, not transition like graduation preparedness and those services, correct?
Correct. We're not talking about the transition services for special ed into post-secondary education. So that's why we but Title 1D, the language is transition. So I like to use for our purposes and juvenile justice re-entry. Yeah. So that's the type.
Is it acceptable then if we have we have a full re-entry process? It's very similar to what you were describing. Someone attends for a partial day and coaches the staff, and we fade them out. But those services are integrated with our mental health provider, and some of those care coordination meetings are provided by the mental health provider. So as long as we have a written procedure that you can review, that you see where those services are occurring, is it okay that it's being provided by the mental health provider, or do you want that specifically on our end built in?
I think the mental health provider can provide a good number of or good portion of the services, but there are certain parts where your educational staff need to be involved, such as the records request,
right.
And then for the educational part, I think the mental health people can talk about their realm, but then I think education also needs. What I don't want is like for a certain site, transition or reentry, that's done by mental health. We're not involved with that. That's not what we want. We want like where it's not saying, they do it, they handle it, I'm not involved. That's what we don't want. It's where, education is, they may not take the lead, but participates and is a contributing member.
Right. So if we can show that that's our process, that we hold what we call a reentry meeting, we always have what we call a transition planning meeting that we start at least 30 days before we're going to exit a youth. And that's the whole team. That's education, mental health, everybody. And we go over the behavior plan, and we go over the treatment plan, and we go over the IEP. That as long as we can document that those steps are occurring and all members are involved, it doesn't really matter which side is, air quotes, leading it.
Yep, that's fine. Yep.
Okay.
And it talks about an integrated system, yeah.
So, and that could then be a shared position, like the teacher is the one designated to lead the educational side of the transition services. And it doesn't have to be necessarily an additional position or additional role. It can just be something that we say is an assigned duty of the existing people in the program.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And for that teacher's portion, like if that teacher's portion could be used to pay out of Title 1D.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, 15 to 30% of your Title I-D has to be used for transition services. And that was a good question, Allison. Someone online said that's a good question. That was her question also. Are there any other questions online or on the phone? Or any other agenda items that you want to talk about? And as many of you do, feel free to contact Adam or I via phone or email when you have questions. You don't have to wait for our webinars or whatnot. Just email or call and so forth. And I try to respond in a quick manner. So, yep. So a question is, so a portion of teacher salary can be used from Title I-D to pay for those transition services? Yes. Remember, Title I-D is supplemental, not supplanting, but you can use some of it for to pay for teachers' time for transition services or reentry services.
Pam, this is Shauna Bell from High Desert ESD.
Good morning, Shauna.
Good morning. I have a question back on the invoicing to ODE. We're having some delays in receiving our reimbursements, and I've been tracking all three of our SPED contracts. Long-term care and treatment is one of those. And we were at about 5.5 weeks for all three of them to get reimbursement once deliverables were sent in. Is there something being done to talk about expediting or, you know, getting back to the 2 to 3 week turn time?
Yes, and there was, I think in November and October and December, there was a delay, and then, but I think pretty much we're almost caught up, I believe. And then they have been going out a little quicker, and part of it is we had an unexpected departure. Pete Newell, who used to be our contracting person, part of our unit, not our unit, but part of our team that handled it, he unexpectedly left on quick notice, and we have new staff with the retirement of Carol Stoddard and with Bonnie Lanning leaving. So with Rochelle, Cassie, and myself, and we have a new procurement person, there was a period of transition or learning, and then I think pretty much we're pretty much caught up, but the delays have been minimalized. Not minimalized, but they have gotten shorter. And then I'm just speaking for long-term care treatment, JDIP, YSEP. I can't speak for regionals or EIECSE. You should see a quicker turnaround. And I apologize for that. We did have a delay in, the months of October and November.
Okay, I look forward to that.
Anyone else? No one else? Any other questions? Feel free to contact Adam or I if you have any questions or comments. And if not, thank you everybody for participating this morning, and looking forward to meeting some of you again. Bye now. Have a good day, everybody.